Hey everyone, it's Shaz here from Customer Journeys AI. Um, One thing I want to talk about is some work that I'm doing with a client, and basically they want help with their B2B outreach. And speaking to many of you that are in this space, I understand that you're doing a lot of this manually right now. So you're writing or copying kind of contacts into your spreadsheets, into your um, your different tools. You're writing emails manually. You're following up with so many different calendar reminders. So it's very slow. It's very inconsistent, and if someone say leaves the business that's doing this work, or if they go and leave, then obviously that pipeline can stop. So what I'm doing is kind of building a system that doesn't work that way. It's a system that really identifies the right people. It writes personalized outreach using an AI assistant, and it can run the outreach sequences, whether that's across email or LinkedIn, automatically without someone manually having to manage that every single day. So before I show you the system, what I want to do is kind of make sure we're on the same page and explain the problem that I'm basically trying to solve here. Because a lot of B2B teams are, um, as I say, spending a ton of time doing manual outreach, whether that's in, an agency or a consultancy or a SaaS company, um, wherever it may be. The first thing that really is a big pain point is the research piece, because that's taking a lot of time. So even just going out there, and when you're trying to find new contacts, or if you're trying to enrich them, find their emails, you're trying to learn about their company, that's being done manually, and that can really eat up a lot of time. Plus the messaging, when you've done all that research, is still quite generic, and I sure that you guys feel the same, but when I receive messages on LinkedIn or email, it just feels like a template where they've replaced my name and swapped it out, and you can kind of tell. And I think with all the AI slop that's happening right now, response rates are really dropping. The follow up piece is another huge pain point, because I think most of the pipeline really just lives or dies by follow up. So if someone is showing you interest and you get busy or you forget to chase, they're going to move on. You're going to lose that contact. So kind of consistent follow up is so important, but it's almost impossible to kind of maintain that when you're doing this manually at scale. Um, and then the other thing is, like, no one really understands exactly what's working in outreach. So which messages specifically are landing, which sequence drove that specific reply, because it might be a broken system. And if you have a broken system, it doesn't matter if you're hiring more people or you're working harder, it's just impossible to measure. So the system that I've built, it runs across four key tools, and it's all connected by make.com, which is doing the workflow orchestration. The CRM is essentially where all the contacts live. So they get tagged in the CRM. And then the make.com obviously waits for specific triggers and then fires a logic. Our Claude API, the LLM of choice, that generates brilliant personalized outreach. So I love Claude. And the final piece really is the outreach sequencing. So we're using Brevo for the email sequencing, and you could also use Closely, for example, for the LinkedIn piece. One more thing, I guess, on this as well is what you can notice from this: there's no human in the loop here. This is all basically fully autonomous. So before any of the automation, what I've done with the client is really understand who their ICP is, because the last thing we want is rubbish data. As I say, garbage in, garbage out. And I think that's true for AI systems as well. So we've defined the ICP, exactly kind of who they're trying to reach, right down to like their job titles, company sizes, their sector. This definition basically becomes a filter for all the contact that ends up in the CRM system. And right now, what we're doing is we're doing all of this manually. So in kind of, let's say, phase one, the reason we're doing this manually is we want to just make sure that all of the initial contacts are the right ICP and it's grounded in truth. And then later on, we will obviously build out an AI system that can identify the correct contacts and add them automatically into the CRM. But really, right now, the key is making sure that we get all the contacts into the CRM. They're all tagged with all of these different contact tags, as you can see here: ICP, company size, source, priority, etc. Um, and then once they're tagged, we're sending them through a fully autonomous system. So this is a illustration here. And what you're looking at is one that's actually in production right now. I'm just going to walk you through kind of what's happening here. So you've got the CRM triggers here on the left. So essentially, when what's happening here is the CRM is basically watching for any new contacts that are added in, and then the moment they're tagged and enriched and added into the system, then they go through a specific router. This router has three different routes, and that depends on the type of outreach sequence that we're creating. For example, LinkedIn versus email. And then the final piece really is the final couple of pieces is Claude will then generate a personalized outreach template for each individual contact based on all of the data it's been fed from the contact. It will pass that into JSON format, which goes through to Brevo, and then Brevo kind of is handed over to Brevo to then manage the actual email sequence itself. So once Make.com basically pushes that contact through to Brevo, then there's a email sequence that takes over, and as you can see, this is another automation that's set up within Brevo. And the sequence basically will start with the contact gets added into a list, and then that pushes them through to a specific email nurture sequence. They get a personalized message. Before this is sent, we actually have a human in the loop element, so you can check before the emails are sent across if you like. And then it goes through this sequence automatically. Um, the beautiful thing about this is that we can add in specific um, action or rules, I guess you could say. So for example, don't send the email until the day after the human in the loop element. And then for the second email, if the contact opens the email, then send email 2. If they open the email, send email 3. If they do not open any emails, they exit the sequence. For example, you could set up the rules however you wish. But this is brilliant because everything is built in to the automation. There's a very personalized email for every single contact, and it has behavioral branching, which allows you to set up rules which make sense for your specific business. Now, what we want to do next is move away from just having a rules-based deterministic model for the automation, um, and move to an agentic layer. So what this will mean is right now, obviously, everything is based on triggers and predefined sequences. But what will happen in the agentic layer is a lot of this stuff that we're not doing right now, for example, sourcing new leads, can be done autonomously via an agent. So more simplistically, how that will work is we might define with the agent, look for a specific web trigger event. So it might be there's a new leadership change within a business, and when that happens, then the agent will be able to identify that person, check against the ICP filters, and then decide if that person now becomes a contact within the CRM automatically without you having to be involved. We would also maybe define some event driven triggers, which would be things like, if that person then goes on to post something on LinkedIn, maybe they're saying, oh, well, we need automation in our company, we're not doing it. That might be an event trigger that the agent looks out for, and it can then take that information and create a more adaptive sequence. So right now we obviously um, don't adapt based on these specific events, the actual email they receive, but we could do that with an agent. So they might have more of a general welcome email, but after the agent sees, they're a new leader and they were talking about automation needs in their business, we could actually adapt the first email to talk specifically to that. And imagine um, how kind of surprising and delightful that would be for that contact to say, oh, they've actually read my most recent post and they understand our business challenges. And then obviously there will be lots of contacts as well. So we can create like a re-engagement 90-day loop, which will look at the CRM and it will monitor it. And if the situation changes for any of our contacts, for example, let's say they come back into the workplace in a new role for a new company, maybe you might want to re-engage them there. So that's kind of broken down here into this phase 3 that we're looking at, the agentic sourcing. So actually going out there and finding these uh, contacts um, based on real-time signals, having a personalization layer for that, and then having the autonomous re-engagement layer as well. And then the final thing I just want to do is just wrap up kind of what I was discussing here today. Um, I'd say there's kind of 4 takeaways. So if you're doing this stuff yourself within within a business, you're doing tons of B2B outreach, then you don't necessarily need to think to yourself, well, let's say for example you have broken processes within your team and your outreach is not running very well at the moment, then you don't have to go out and hire more people. You don't need a huge team to do this type of automation. What I've shown you is how you can basically connect tools together, and one person can do that, and it can manage a lot of that manual, autonomous, monotonous and mundane work for you. The second thing is we know that personalization is really important, and with this system, we're using an LLM like Claude, and that's helping to write something that's genuinely uh, interesting or personalized for that contact and is not templatized at all. The behavioral logic means that the system that we've built is going to continue to improve over time. So everything that happens within the system, let's say they read an email or the branch they take within a nurture sequence or the type of email that they respond to, all of these um, um, all of these things, can't think of a better word, just will just make the system smarter over time because we'll be able to learn off the back of those data points. And then the fourth thing is you need to start thinking about these automations now, because if you're not building something similar, then other teams will be, and it'll kind of become table stakes, I think, over the next 18 months. So now's the time to think about um, your manual workflows, what's broken, where's all the friction, and how can you start to bring in automation led with AI intelligence. And if you're interested, this is something that I can help you with. Sorry, it's my daughter coming right at the end of the presentation. You can contact me. You you can send me a DM, and hopefully I will speak to you soon.